Now 80, now 80, will you give me 80? 80 don't bid, 80 don't bid, now 85. Now 85, will you give me 85? No, will you give me now? $90 bid, now 85, I have sold $90 money play.
Ducks Unlimited is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1937 during the Dust Bowl. It was founded by a group of duck hunters that were concerned about the loss of habitat during that time. So we've been around about 77 years now. Ducks Unlimited was formed to conserve and restore and manage wetlands so that we could have good areas and nesting populations for ducks.
By the 1930s, critical wetland habitat had almost dried up completely, especially in the nation's heartland. This habitat loss due to farming and drought, combined with large bag limits, devastated waterfowl populations that almost dwindled beyond recovery. Government agencies took action by restricting bag limits and reducing the season. However, it soon became clear that wouldn't reverse populations alone. And as acres of wetland habitat vanished, so did future generations of waterfowl. By the late 1930s, conservation groups like the National Wildlife Federation, the Wildlife Society, and Ducks Unlimited joined in the fight.
Conservation with Ducks Unlimited is important because we make sure that we have ducks for next generation to be out to enjoy. We use it for, conserving wetlands, wildland habitat. With DU, not only are we working in the state, we're working nationally, and we're working in the North America. We ensure that the duck factory or the prairie pothole region in Canada and the northern United States has good quality agricultural maintenance. That way that we don't lose those critical duck habitat areas. That's where the ducks breed. That's why we call it the factory. They grow up there to come down here. That's why we do it, to ensure that that keeps happening every year.
So the money that's raised at these events is used to conserve and restore wetland projects across the country. Ducks Unlimited has a great history of working with the Wildlife Department. We've completed several projects in the last 10 or 15 years in Oklahoma. Just in the last year, we completed a project at the Waurika Wetland Development Unit in southwestern Oklahoma. That project restored several 100 acres of wetlands. It's all open to public hunting, and it's a really great project. We're always looking for volunteers across the state to help put on these functions. They're a lot of fun to become a part of. You get to hang out with some really great people that are all like-minded and are really into duck hunting. You get to see the work that you put in end up in some really great places. And wetlands are important definitely to hunters and ducks, but also to, wetlands are very important for groundwater recharge, and so we have fresh water to drink, and, reducing flooding and all sorts of other benefits. So, getting involved, it really is it's a great way to help out the ducks and other habitats and people also.
Our chapter formed, we restarted 4 years ago with an event. We had good success, so we've continued on. We've seen marginal success, and now we've grown to leaps and bounds this year in our 4th year of fundraising. We have a great committee, great group of guys, core group of volunteers who not only do we fundraise together, we work together, and we also hunt together. So Ducks Unlimited through us is a big thing for all of us to take part in. The benefits of the average sportsman coming to a Ducks Unlimited is giving back. We take so much from the land. This is our chance to give back and replenish what we have taken so that our kids, our grandkids, and generations down the line will be able to enjoy this great sport and this heritage that we have in the United States. I got involved duck hunting about 5 years ago. My in-laws said, hey, let's go duck hunting, and I had always believed that I shouldn't sit in cold freezing water to shoot at a duck. So I went, did it, and I've been doing it ever since. I live and breathe for it. I'd rather be doing that on 4th of July than having a barbecue. I'd rather be out there hunting ducks. That would be illegal. But I think about it 365 days a year, 24 hours a day.
At its annual convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Ducks Unlimited recently recognized Oklahoma as being one of its top 10 fundraising states, actually making it to number 6. Now, in order to achieve this top 10 status, well, all 46 chapters of DU in Oklahoma had to excel in things like income and membership and event attendance and volunteer growth through its grassroots fundraising events. Now, coming up after this week's Outdoor News Report, our own Josh Richardson, our migratory bird biologist at the Wildlife Department, is actually going to go on a hunt with the EOC chapter. And then after that, we'll take a look at all the outdoor opportunities there are to be had at the Cross Timbers Wildlife Management Area and this month's Destination Outdoors.
If someone doesn't do it, we won't have it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the pothole region up there, farmers, you know, they're encroaching on that, and DU's work to keep them, you know, with the NRCS doing the WRP stuff, and it just ensures everything for future generations to enjoy this like this right here. Come out here on a December morning on a duck hunt and just sit back and enjoy it. Well, he flared hard, didn't he? He flared hard, didn't he? But yeah, I mean, we do a lot of, here in the state, a lot of fundraising efforts here that's gonna pay out big time.
Like you say, I mean, it not only helps us down here, but also DU's work nationwide, and even on up into Canada. DU's definitely an important partner with the conservation of wetlands and waterfowl.
You tell people you volunteer for DU, and like, oh, so you go out and hunt all the time? Like, well, no, not really. You know, we raise money, we do initiatives on the ground and through corporate. You know, it's a great thing. Jiminy Christmas.
Was that Boo?
It's gone, Greg. My idea was to come out here and hunt where there's no birds so people won't come back when there are birds. One day in Oklahoma, the wind doesn't blow 40 miles an hour. That's a successful hunt, finally.
Get him, boo. Bring him here.
We're located on Cross Timbers Wildlife Management Area in the southern part of Love County. It's roughly 14 miles west of Marietta. The Wildlife Department bought this piece of property in 2011. And we just recently added to that in January 2015 for a total approximate acres of 10,300 acres. Since we've started planting these crops here on these dove fields, we've increased the amount of dove usage on that WMA, and therefore the hunters have really started focusing in on the area to use it, and it's been really good. Some of the management practices that we do here, like specifically right here behind me, we have some fields that we manage for dove. We plant a variety of seed species, and we manipulate those by shredding and burning, and expose those seeds for the dove and get some bare ground, because that's what dove like. In this Cross Timbers region, we're made up of blackjack oak, post oak, hickory with native pecan. And historically it was a native grassland. We have introduced grasses that are present because they were once pasture land, and now we're trying to reintroduce native grasses back into the area to get those reestablished back like they were historically. I have a 4-month grazing lease. It runs generally from the 1st of March through the mid-July. And what we're looking for there is specifically for quail habitat. We're trying to get more ground disturbance to get more forbs and legumes. One of the reasons we're introducing cattle into these pastures is historically it was grazed by buffalo. So we're wanting to duplicate that process to increase these forbs, like I said, because our target species is quail, so that's what we're after. And basically what I'm wanting to emphasize here is just the grazing distribution. I've got an enclosure that you can see in front of me, but more importantly, you can see where the cattle's been outside that grazing enclosure. There's more soil disturbance, so therefore you see a lot more ragweed that's present, which is this plant here. And if there wasn't any cattle present, the blue stem that's inside this enclosure, it would all be the same height throughout this whole pasture. So you can definitely see the difference that the cattle's making on this area here. The deer hunting opportunities on this area include archery hunting, and then we have 2 controlled hunts, 1 muzzleloader, 1 rifle. And then we also offer a spring turkey hunt through the controlled hunts program. Before we bought the WMA, this was a cattle ranch, so there's lots of farm ponds all over the area. And we've recently stocked 8 of the bigger ponds, so there's lots of fishing opportunity along with hunting opportunities on the area. If you haven't been down to Cross Timbers WMA, there's lots of opportunities that exist down here, so we'd enjoy having you, so come see us.
In cooperation with the Canadian Wildlife Service and other state, provincial, and private conservation partners, the 60th Annual Waterfowl Breeding Population and Habitat Survey is now complete. This video gives a brief overview of habitat conditions and duck and goose population estimates across the survey area for the 2015 season. In May and June 2015, air crews flew across more than 1 million square miles of waterfowl habitat in large segments of the U.S. and Canada. ground crews also surveyed a part of the same area to validate the aerial survey numbers. The air and ground crews worked with biologists from the Migratory Bird Program to summarize habitat conditions, determine breeding population estimates, and draft annual species reports. For more detail and insights from the survey crews, to access the waterfowl status report, and other information about waterfowl management across North America, visit the flyways.us website. In general, conditions during the 2015 survey were characterized as average to above average moisture across most of the traditional and eastern survey areas. Despite an early spring over most of the survey area, habitat conditions during the 2015 survey were similar to or poorer than last year. In many areas, the decline in habitat conditions was due to average to below average annual precipitation, with the exception of portions of southern Saskatchewan and central latitudes of eastern Canada. The total pond estimate for Prairie Canada and the U.S. combined was 6.3 million, which was 12% below the 2014 estimate of 7.2 million, but 21% above the long-term average. Following a relatively mild winter, the U.S. prairies also recorded an early spring, although precipitation since last summer was average to mostly below average. Habitat conditions in Montana and the Dakotas declined relative to 2014, despite significant rainfall in May, which came too late to benefit most early nesting waterfowl. The total pond estimate for the north central U.S. was 2.2 million, which is 16% below the 2014 estimate, but 28% above the long-term average. Overall, population estimates for the majority of species of ducks remained steady for this breeding season. The total 2015 duck population estimate, excluding scoters, eiders, long-tailed ducks, mergansers, and wood ducks, is 49.5 million birds. This population estimate is similar to the 2014 estimate of 49.2 million and is 43% higher than the long-term average. Good to excellent production was expected for goose and swan populations nesting in the western Arctic and Alaska due to the early spring there. Variable or average production was expected in the central and eastern Arctic, with average to below average production expected along the Hudson Bay and southern Baffin Island, where late ice and snowmelt occurred. Production of temperate nesting Canada geese from most of their North American range was expected to be average. Many populations of lesser snow geese and Ross's geese remain elevated, despite efforts to reduce their overabundant populations. However, counts of light geese within the Pacific, Central, and Mississippi flyways during fall and winter surveys were 15% lower than last year. While this year's survey results were very favorable, when and where waterfowl will be encountered this fall depends on many factors. Food availability and conditions of water sources all influence local duck and goose abundance, distribution, behavior, and ultimately, hunter success. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service continues to monitor changes throughout the survey regions and is mindful of large-scale development changes and extreme weather, which may negatively impact duck production in the future. Conservation efforts continue to be important to ensure continued population stability of ducks and geese. Waterfowl hunters contribute directly to conservation efforts through the purchase of a migratory bird hunting and conservation stamp, known as the Duck Stamp. The purchase of habitat from Duck Stamp sales ultimately benefits both waterfowl and other birds. For more information about the Duck Stamp, annual habitat and waterfowl population surveys, and the exciting world of waterfowl management across North America, visit the flyways.us website.
You know, since its creation in 1937, Ducks Unlimited has conserved more than 13 million acres of habitat in North America, including 38,000 acres right here in Oklahoma. You know, it's amazing to think that a relatively few number of dedicated sportsmen could have such an impact for years to come, thanks to decades of continuous efforts driven by a single mission. Hey, thanks for joining us today. For all of us at your Wildlife Department, I'm Todd Craighead, and we'll see you right here next time on Outdoor Oklahoma.